So really thanks a lot for coming to this discussion, for organizing this discussion, for our European colleagues here in Berlin. Really, it's very special days, and as you have said, we are matching Brussels and Berlin. We're trying, I would call we are competing. Who will announce, stronger statements on defense? And definitely, I would like to congratulate German government of today and of the future. And those decisions are really such a strong and inspiring example to, I hope, to all other member states in Europe, that we can just applaud. And such kind of actions really we need now. And we need to act fast and we need to act big. And in order really to be ready for the wars of today and for the wars of tomorrow. I will not try to speak, too much about white paper. I would advise maybe if somebody wants to have good political overview of what the European Union were trying to do. Of course, you should read, white paper, but also you should read the recent speech 2 days ago, given by Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in Copenhagen in military academy. It's a perfect description of how we see the situation, looking from Commission windows, from EU leadership windows, and what we will need to do. And all the essence of what we need to do was, again, I will quote Commission President from her speech, when she said in a very simple way, if Europe wants to avoid war, Europe must get ready to the war. And, since there are also military people, I am as poor as civilian, I will not go into very much into details of military things, but, when I see, as a former Prime Minister, some numbers, where we are and where, for example, Russia is, then I understand very much how big are the threats and how big job we need to do. I will remind simply just two numbers. One is what NATO General Secretary is speaking out, that Russia during 3 months at the moment is able to produce more weapons than all the NATO member states are able to produce during 1 year. All the NATO member states, including United States, including Great Britain, Canada and all of us. So that is one thing. And second, that this year, if to measure in so-called purchasing power parity, Russia will spend for military needs more than all of us EU member states will spend for our defense. So my conclusion is here always very simple. If we shall allow such numbers, such inequality to stay for a longer period of time, we shall keep temptation for Putin going on to test us very soon. And again, we need to take into account very seriously what intelligence services, German intelligence service or Danish intelligence service recently have said, that in Kremlin there are going real discussions about possibilities to test Article 5 in the nearest future, at least till 2030. So those are realities. Realities which we are facing. From another side, of course, realities are so-called going negotiations or whatever we can call them, on ceasefire in Ukraine, and also some steps or some statements which we can hear from our partners on another side of Atlantic. Again, I will not elaborate too much on that, but from the very beginning, even before American elections, when I was nominated as a candidate to become commissioner, I was always repeating that we have two challenges to have in mind. One is very urgent. It's really Russia and Ukraine, and now we see even more evidences of what are the threats here and what are the urgencies. Second one, I was repeating that since we also see that Chinese military power is growing very rapidly, we need to have in mind that it will lead to more and more of American pivot towards Indo-Pacific, to Asia, to mitigate Chinese military power, and we need to be ready for that. Now I repeat it again, those numbers, which it's not my invention, but that that 450 million Europeans we should not ask, we should not cry for 340 million Americans to defend us against 140 million Russians who are not able to defeat 38 million Ukrainians. So that's, that's the number. So we need really to take more and more of responsibility on our shoulders, and to do that without delays, because the threats and urgency is here. So I simply will say a few words about white paper. White paper has several clear priorities. One is, of course, search and defense spending. So some steps on defense spending were done even before white paper was published. So that's how it's incredible how speedy, European Union is becoming when real crisis is coming. So, as you know, after 2 weeks of previous European Council, Commission on this Wednesday approved not only white paper but also very important regulations on so-called safe loans, 150 billion attractive loans which are backed by European Union budget, also on possibilities for member states to use so-called escape clause, and to have 1.5% of GDP not to be included, spent on defense not to be included into deficits. That opens possibilities. Again, I want always to stress, those are possibilities, so opportunities for member states to invest into defense, quite big amounts of money. We can calculate, that it will open during the next 4 years to spend around 800 billion for defense. I'm always also reminding that it's only additional money. If we will calculate all the money, and if we shall have such an ideal situation that from the next year, after NATO summit, member states will start to spend 3.5%, because now we're adding, 1.5 to 2%, so 3.5% annually will mean that all EU member states will spend around 600 billion euros for defense, which means during 4 years it will be 2.4 trillion. And since member states are spending around 30% for defense equipment, so we shall have 800 billion real money going into defense industry, into defense equipment, and so on and so on. So this is really whatever, big bang search, or we can call it how we want to know. Possibility for that is here. What member states will do, we shall see, but I hope that really here also we shall be able to convince member states to go ahead. So as I said, first is search and defense spending. Second is really closing capability gaps and not having in mind only the wars of today, but also the wars of tomorrow. And gaps analysis, we are basing our analysis on NATO reviewing of defense plans and capability gaps. We want to have very clear list of the needs in order for us to create what we call aggregated demand, to create visibility for the industries, for financial markets, and also to understand how much it will cost for us to implement all those needed things. And of course, when we are talking about filling capability gaps, at least my view is maybe too simplified, but I am always saying that, well, first of all, we need to look into possibility how we can ramp up massive production, what we call of the same, of conventional things, conventional stuff, artillery, ammunition, and so on and so on. But that's only part of what we need to do. Second, very important is exactly developing so-called, developing our capabilities with so-called strategic enablers, where, strategic airlift, air-to-air refueling, space assets, space intelligence data, and we can name and besides experts, I am curious, that they can name much more of what is needed, but that is where we are very heavily dependent exactly on American services. So we need to do that again in the urgent way to fill those gaps. And third direction is implementing big defense projects of common European interest, like air defense shield or eastern northern border defense shield. And again, here we need to look not only into the wars of today, but also into the wars of tomorrow, drones, electronic warfare, and things like that. So those are three directions on industrial gaps. But also we cannot forget to take care not only about guns, but also about military mobility, since we understand very well that, again, there are problems which we need to resolve, both from infrastructural point of view, but also from legal point of view, and that is what we are also keeping in mind. The third priority, of course, is strengthening European defense industrial base, which I would call attempts to resolve structural problems of our defense industry and defense market. Which, again, I will not repeat, but if you will read Draghi report, everything is set in a very clear way. Fragmentation, a lot of money, national money, which we are spending on defense, we are spending outside of our defense industry. And I'm always repeating that from my point of view, despite the fact that I am civilian, not a military one, but when I am looking what defense resources we need to develop, besides, let's say, procurement of weapons, besides military personnel and military mobility, for me, defense industry, it looks as very important strategic resource for defense. Because if we will face real war, we shall need to have industry not far away from the war zone, with possibilities to repair, to maintain, and to produce new. So that's why when we're spending our money somewhere else, we need to understand that we are not really taking care about one of the very important defense resources, and that is what we need to have in mind. And also, that demands from us changes in how we are realizing our defense through procurements and so on. For me, joint procurement, again, is a very crucial strategic instrument which we need to learn how to use, and we need to have possibilities to incentivize such kind of joint procurement. And additional point where we are talking also in white paper in a very important way is, of course, what we call simplification, or removing obstacles through simplification. In June, we shall need to come with so-called simplification omnibus in defense, and we can, just understand what does it mean. I'm always showing an example when somebody is saying, well, you are creating opportunities to finance, you are expecting that industry will produce, but industries are taking a lot of time for them to expand their, capacities to produce what is needed. I'm saying, let's look into Ukraine. Back in 2022, all the Ukrainian defense industry was able to produce weapons with a total value per year of 1 billion euros. Because of the war, because they went for real simplification of all the different regulations. Last year, they concluded the year, they ended the year with possibility to produce 35 billion euros value weapons. Increase of capacity by 35 times. That's a real big bang. So I don't think that we need we need 35 times to increase our capacities, but I am just showing that this is really possible. And the last, but maybe it should be the first chapter when we are talking about white paper, is of course our support to Ukraine. And I will not elaborate again. What we are saying with all what was done till now. 50 billion euros provided by European Union for Ukrainian strengthening Ukrainian defense capabilities. I would remind that if you will recalculate those 50 billion into annual support, which means around of 16 billion per year, we are giving military support. It's below 0.1% of our GDP. So we need to have this in mind. We can do more. And with rearm Europe new instruments, especially with safe, attractive loans, AAA loans, 45 years maturity and 10 years of grace, we can do. I think that we can find together with Ukraine and with member states new possibilities how really we can increase quite substantially our support to Ukrainian defense. Also, we are looking into possibilities to strengthen our institutional cooperation in defense with, creating task force to coordinate all aspects of our defense support with Ukraine. We are going to speed up integration of Ukrainian defense industry with European one. That is for, we expect that Parliament and Council will agree quite soon with so-called EDIP program, which has a chapter on integration. And I would say, again, I'm just starting to understand now, what we wrote into white paper. Because white paper is about the future of European defense. And we included, rationally, we included all things related with Ukrainian defense. Which means that, I don't know if this is the first time when we are including into our defense documents Ukraine as a real, partner in our defense. So that's, for me, it looks like a step forward, in our political thinking, at least. So this is what white paper is about. But I'm always repeating that, it was good to draft, white paper to discuss with all the experts. We got more than inputs from more than 20 member states, from industries, from experts, and so on. Thanks a lot to everybody. And Germany here was very, very active and very good, association of industry. And this period of 100 days of what I call of reflections really was very much, needed. I saw how, in some way, convergence of our attitudes was starting to come, and that is why I was not so much surprised when, some steps were done even before white paper was published, because it was very clear that we are on the same page with all the most important players in this field. For me, approval of white paper is also the start of joint action. And that is why even during presentation, I said, for me now most important is implementation, simplification, and realization of new opportunities. I'm always repeating, that, I saw quite a lot of expectations in the public from white paper. I was always repeating, we need to understand very simple thing. We cannot expect that Putin will be deterred while we shall read him loudly our white paper. No, that's my very practical, understanding. So, but implementation of white paper, with production of needed, weapons, with production with strengthening all our capabilities, with strengthening of Ukrainian capabilities, that is what really will make the difference. So, I will perhaps come to the end of my explanation. I will not talk too much about again, I said a few words about financial part of all the implementation with the safe loans, with the escape clause. Next week we shall also approve communication on revision of cohesion policy, which will allow member states to spend cohesion money on things related with defense. Because again, we need to understand the development of, for example, of defense industry is also creation of the jobs, is possibility to develop economically the regions, and so on and so on. So we are removing simply obstacles for which were existing, for cohesion funds to be spent on defense issues. Today, perhaps I haven't seen information, but today European Investment Bank also is doing very important step. Again, that was our permanent conversation with them, that they should remove those obstacles to invest into defense, what they had in their mandate. Now, they will, at least what we were informed, they will narrow very much, description of the prohibitions. So a lot of fields will become available. And also on Wednesday we approved quite an important document, communication on savings and investment union, which we hope, steps which we are planning to do, will open private money, possibility for private funds to move into defense. Now, one thing which I would like to stress, because we saw some media reports which were not correct on one specific issue, because we saw that when we approved safe regulation on safe loans, somebody told, Europeans are doing quite a strange job because we kicked out, at least it looked like that we kicked out United Kingdom and Canada. So it's really not objective evaluation. Because first of all, we are creating additional possibilities to invest into defense at the level of 800 billion. So 600 billion will come from national defense spending, which is totally unregulated, where member states will want to spend in Canada, in the United States, or in Britain, they will be able to spend. It's better that they should spend in Europe, but that will depend on how much we shall be able to incentivize them. Second, again, when we're talking about European loans, we repeated the same what was done with previous programs on European level. We said that, first of all, contractors, or let's say, weapons can be procured from companies which belong to European, member states and which are established on European territory. That's again repeated. Third countries, entities which belong to third countries also can participate in this program if they are established on European territory. That was, again, nothing new. But what is new that we additionally put one additional paragraph that if countries which are friendly with the European Union will sign so-called security and defense partnerships, then also there will be a possibility that those loans will be allowed to be used to procure weapons produced in those countries directly. So we are removing here this, request to use those money for the industries which are established on the European continent. So we are simply expanding possibilities for those countries with whom we are in a very strong solidarity to move ahead. And I hope that quite soon we shall have also partnership agreements with Canada and Great Britain signed and started to be implemented. So that's perhaps all what I wanted to say on white paper. Sorry, maybe too long, but yeah, that's politicians always impossible to stop.